Here we are again with our candy corns, and in this video we're going to be learning how to use Excel to find the regression equation and the correlation coefficient for a data set. So I do have our candy corn guesses here in this column, and I randomly inserted ages here for just the purpose to have a hypothetical data set. So let's just assume that I also collected your age with your candy corn guess. And so, for example, someone who guessed 120 was 22 years old. The person who guessed 125 was 5 years old, so on and so forth. So again, the purpose of this video, we're going to go ahead and put in a scatter plot here in Excel, which at the very beginning of our course, we saw how to insert different diagrams and graphs and things like that. So that's going to be in the same area. So if we highlight our entire data set here, including the titles, because the titles will automatically go on to your scatter plot, which is really awesome. Okay, so once we have those highlighted, we can come up here to Insert, and then you should have an area of charts. Now, based on how my screen is, smaller or larger than yours, your picture might look slightly different, but it should all be here. Notice this one is the scatter plot, but if you do like to go into the whole larger charts area and go to all charts where you can see a lot of these options here, we can also find scatter plot. They call it XY scatter. Okay, so here we want this one. This is the type that we're looking for here. So we're going to go ahead and double click on that one. Okay. Here is our scatter plot. So now we can go ahead and kind of start visualizing maybe equations, regressions, maybe not equations, but kind of what trends we have here. So it kind of does look like maybe we have a little bit of a positive linear relationship. There is some variability kind of along the sides here. And even as we get closer, as we get higher up on our X's, on our ages, it does appear that these points kind of spread out more and more in this way. So I wouldn't suspect that this is a super linear correlation, but for the purpose of this video, we're going to investigate kind of what happens here. Okay, so first I'm going to make this a little bit smaller just now. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is talk through how to find the equation, the regression equation or the line of best fit. There's a lot of different names for it. I'll say probably the fastest way to do this, it'll give you a rounded value for your equation. If you click on any of the data values here, right click and go to Add Trend Line, should be here. And if we pop up here on the right, you see we have a lot of options. Right now we're learning about linear regression, so we are going to keep linear selected. And then you can go down and hit Display Equation on Chart. If you want to, you can hit Display R squared value on chart as well, but we have not learned about that yet, and so in a future video we can learn more about that. But for now, I'm just going to stick with this equation. Great. I'm going to go ahead and move this up here and then make it larger just so we can see it. Okay, so this is our equation. This is our linear equation for our line of regression. Notice too, it puts this line on our graph for us. So remember earlier, it does look a little bit more horizontal than I had first anticipated there. But it does maybe look slightly positive. Remember we did learn that the slope of the data set, so this would be not the data set, the slope of the regression equation, M. If this is positive, it does indicate a positive relationship or a positive correlation. However, the slope does not indicate the strength of the relationship. So slopes could be all over the place, but the sign of the slope does get reflected in the correlation coefficient. So another thing we're going to see in this video is how to find that correlation coefficient. This is a fun one. So in Excel, if you do equals CORR, you see coral here, so it returns the correlation coefficient. So we can double click on that. Array 1 and array 2 As we've seen throughout this course, if you highlight one column, that is what they are asking for as an array. Put a comma, highlight column 2. Come on up. Okay. And this is our correlation coefficient. So let's review what the correlation coefficient is doing, what it's measuring, and what this says about our data set here. I'm going to move my face down. Okay, so the correlation coefficient R is measuring essentially how close are these data points to this line. And if you notice, as we've discussed, these points are kind of all over the place up here and down here. And so visualizing how far they are from this line, we could imagine that this correlation coefficient would indicate this isn't a super strong relationship. Again, it's not a super strong relationship. So I would say pretty weak. And now we can see it is very weak. So if you remember, the correlation coefficient varies between -1 and +1. If it has a correlation of 0, so correlation coefficient is 0, that means it is a horizontal line. That means we don't really see any linear relationship. And again, a strong linear relationship would look something like if all the points are really close to this line going up, kind of that deal would be a strong positive linear relationship. Put a bunch of points there. Okay. All right. So this value of R is telling us that our relationship is, yes, slightly positive because the correlation coefficient is positive, similar to our slope. But because it is so close to 0, this means that there's not a correlation. And in context of this problem, with our made-up ages, that kind of, I mean, we wouldn't expect a correlation anyway because I made up these ages in relation to the guesses. But the whole point is we are measuring, in theory, is there a correlation between your age and the guess that you gave for the candy corns? And based on this hypothetical situation, there is not a correlation between your age and your guess on the candy corns. All right, that'll be it for this video. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.